Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Cathy McGrath, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today's issue of the Neepawa Banner and Press is for Friday, October 23rd, 2025. And right on the front, Neepawa celebrates truth and reconciliation. On Friday, September 26th, the town of Neepawa celebrated Indigenous Culture Day at the Flats ahead of the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation on September 30th. And here we have a learning moment for Neepawa. Residents of Neepawa had the chance to learn more about Indigenous history on September 26th as the town of Neepawa, Arts Forward, and the Beautiful Plains School Division hosted Indigenous Culture Days. The event contained powwow dancing, a speech from an elder, and different activity booths for local schools to take part in. 2 sessions of the event were held, one at 9:45 a.m. and at 1:45 p.m. Agassiz MLA Jody Byram was in attendance alongside the NDP MLA for St. Boniface, Robert Walzel, who was a Red River Métis citizen. Activity booth sessions included bannock making, traditional medicines, drum making, ribbon skirts, dresses and patterns, beading, and Métis art. Dancers, singers, and speakers came from across the province, including from Sapatawayak Cree Nation, Rolling River First Nation, Ebb and Flow First Nation, Tatasqueyak Cree Nation, Sandy Bay First Nation, Wewesikapo First Nation, and the Roseau River Anishinaabe First Nation. And Minnedosa honors truth and reconciliation too. The Minnedosa Museum and Heritage Village grounds were home to the community's second annual Truth and Reconciliation event, which was held on Tuesday, September 30th. The event featured stories, personal journeys, Indigenous products for sale, as well as live music and teepee teachings were shared. Part of the festivities also included the showcase of Indigenous dancers. 2 good events. And ensuring the sacrifice is never forgotten. The new Veterans Memorial unveiled in Gladstone by Owen Devereaux. And pictured, a new memorial was unveiled in Gladstone on Wednesday, September 24th, to commemorate those from the region who served in the Great War, World War II, and the Korean War. Malcolm Dawson of the Winnipeg Police Service, retired, and a former member of Queen's Own Cameron Highlanders of Canada, was on hand to play bagpipes for the unveiling. And pictured below as part of the unveiling of the memorial stone, a quilt assembled by the Women Auxiliary in 1988 was used. 4 descendants of individuals commemorated at the memorial unveiled it. A new memorial commemorating the sacrifices of the area's fallen soldiers has been unveiled in Gladstone. The tribute is located at the cemetery and, in a similar fashion to the community's existing cenotaph, will feature the names of those killed in action in the Great War, World War II, and the Korean War. A special ceremony was held on Wednesday, September 24th, to reveal the brand new black granite memorial, as well as a pair of nearby stone benches and a 6-foot-tall silhouette casting of a piper. The site also includes 6 heavy-duty metal wreaths constructed by students with the William Morton Collegiate Industries Arts Program. Verna Otto, chaplain for Royal Canadian Legion No. 110, has been working on this new local commemoration for about 4 years. She explained that while the cenotaph remains an important historic symbol, this new memorial adds to the community's strong commitment to history. It was very important for us to do this, the dedication, and we feel that it was important to have a remembrance in place, as well at the cemetery, stated Otto. And right and center by Ken Waddell, seeking reliability. It seems that neither Canada Post nor the Canadian Union of Postal Workers, CUPW, can find enough daggers to plunge into the heart of the Crown Corporation. Canada Post has been on a death spiral for years now and is technically bankrupt. Last fall, there was a postal strike, the 7th we experienced in our newspaper career. The 2024 strike was not settled, and it has erupted again in a work stoppage whereby Canada Post is delivering no mail. Just prior to last week's work stoppage, CP and CUPW were refusing to carry unaddressed newspapers and flyers. As of Sunday, September 28th, there was no mail moving. In fact, companies that had delivered newspapers or flyers to Canada Post would be disappointed that their flyers sat on the shelves in the local post offices undelivered. In fact, there were flyers and newspapers in the local post offices on their shelves or in their warehouses that staff were not allowed to carry across the room and place the flyers or all-box newspapers in the mailboxes. The situation has become unbearable for flyer distributors and newspapers that are dependent on Canada Post. We are so thankful that over 99% of our 3 newspapers' distribution is not reliant on Canada Post. I don't think I have ever dealt with a company or a union where the upper-level management was so intent on committing suicide. As I have said many times, the local poster staff are amazing, and I can assure you that the work stoppages and insane rules are driving them crazy. Older poster workers are anxiously waiting for their retirement date, and that is so sad. As far as newspapers are concerned, there is an often repeated idea that print is dying and that the internet is the way to go. The internet has some real advantages for sure. We use it every day for lots of things. But if print is dying, why are major companies like Home Hardware, Canadian Tire, and Princess Auto printing and distributing hundreds of thousands of flyers every week? Why does every grocery store chain have flyers every week? Because it works. Print certainly works for those companies that want to tell the world what they have for sale. If print was ineffective, they wouldn't be spending huge money printing and distributing flyers. The reason is simple. Some people like printed products such as newspapers and flyers. They like to have a hard copy. You can set it down and pick it up again for later reference or double checking. Print doesn't disappear on you. It doesn't have loud, annoying ads in your face or in your ears. It doesn't have pop-ups that ambush your internet reading or listening. Print is still strong, and I predict it will be even stronger in the future if, for no other reason than that the information that comes from a regular print source, such as a newspaper, is usually both accurate and reliable. Let me just share another story about print advertising. A few years ago, a major automaker decided to stop doing newspaper ads. In 2020, their sales dropped over 7%. In 2023, over 8.5%, and in 2024, over 17%. That correlation is more than a coincidence. It's a sales disaster that could be partly remedied by recognizing the value of print. Printed news and advertising is effective. In contrast, Canadian Tire does print advertising. Their flyers are often stuffed in newspapers. Their sales have gone up almost 10% per year in recent years. I guess there's a summary conclusion here. The people who say the value of print is diminishing are the very ones who wish it were so. They are the academic geniuses who have pledged their soul to the internet. I believe those people, and even more people in general, are realizing that we can't get truth, accuracy, accountability, and reliability from the internet with the same assurance quality as we can from print. As the old saying goes, words aren't worth the air they are written on. Get it in writing. And the disclaimer, the views expressed in this column are the writer's personal views and are not to be taken as being the view of the newspaper staff. Home Buddies by Rita Friesen. Jetsam and flotsam. Flotsam is defined as debris in the water that was not deliberately thrown overboard, often as a result from a shipwreck or accident. Jetsam describes debris that was deliberately thrown overboard by a crew of a ship in distress, most often to lighten the ship's load. Under maritime law, the distinction is important. I use the term from random thoughts, and I leave it to your discretion as to the value of today's musings. A random evening chat. I was walking home from a meeting when I noticed two folks admiring the community garden at the corner of Mountain and Elizabeth. They had paused near the portion of the beds that I try to keep weed-free and somewhat attractive. It's a work in progress. It was a brother and sister, very much in my age range, and the conversation became animated when it turned out that they had attended school in Graysville, the brother being in my older sister's grade and the sister a bit younger than I. The sister lives here in Neepawa, and the brother was visiting. In moments, we were remembering that his wife had been my closest school chum, that my husband of 40 years was respected for his musical abilities and was my brother-in-law. The time we spent together wasn't long, but it was refreshing, and I couldn't wait to call my brother-in-law, 94 on October 31st, how his life has impacted others. We all need to know that we make a difference. It was also wonderful to speak to someone who knew the younger me and sees the difference. Living in town has been easier than I would have imagined. It helps that my home is really at the outskirts of our town, one house away from the tracks, large lot, many trees. In seasons that allow for open windows, it is not unusual to hear the call of the coyotes, the steady cry of geese as they gather in preparation for migration. The sound of the train is a non-sound, a white noise that I don't really hear anymore. A few steps down the street, and I get to be blessed by sunsets, northern lights, fireflies, the very best night lights. I have raised garden beds, fruit trees, an outdoor wash line, and 2 garages. Going for a walk is a delight and a pleasure with groomed trails and safe streets. I don't know what I expected, but living in town really isn't all that bad. It's accumulating. When we were into shutdown during COVID, I sewed many quilts of varying sizes and colors. I basically depleted my stash, and I thought I was okay with that. My sewing days slowing or ending. Nope. My sister gifted me a box, a good size box, of lovely poly cottons and cottons. Then I spotted a yard sale deal, and I mean a deal. 2 substantial bags of flannel, all sizes and themes. And then, walking through our thrift store, fabric that needed me. I have plans, so many plans, and now I have found out that my grands value homemade items. Random thoughts, and I trust will trigger positive memories of your own. And Faithfully Yours by Neil Stroschein. What defines us? Part 1. He was young, he was brash, and in the life insurance industry, he was a rising star. On this day, he was in a small meeting room, seated among people who, like him, had just completed one of the most successful years of their respective careers. As he spoke of this event several years later, the young man, an agent named Charles Jones, spoke of the impact one guest speaker's words had on his life and career. Our speaker was a very wise man, Jones said. He didn't try to tell us how to sell or do some of the other things in our tremendous business, but he made one statement that shocked us all. He looked us straight in the eye, Jones continued, and said, "Men, you are not ready to live until you know what you want written on your headstone." The long play record, yes, you read that correctly, on which Jones's words were preserved, became unusable many years ago, but those words still ring in my memory, and for the last year they have produced several hours of serious personal reflection. One inescapable question has dominated my thinking. When I die, or when any of those who read this column will die, how will we want to be remembered? 2 answers come to mind. First, I hope that people will remember us for what we became. I still remember the day when I scored my worst grade ever on a university exam. I looked at the scores that the instructor had posted and was about to walk away, convinced I had failed the course, when one of my classmates whispered in my ear, "Remember, you don't get your final grade until the course is over." Later that day, I sat in my home office and I asked myself 3 important questions. Question 1, did I make a mistake? Yes. My mistake was that I assumed the test would cover our discussions and notes from class lectures, but it didn't. That's a mistake students often make, and as my test grade clearly revealed, I had made that mistake. Question 2, did I learn from that mistake? Yes, I learned that this instructor would spend 3 hours a day, this was a summer course, giving us his ideas on a variety of topics. They were interesting and they provoked discussion. But to pass the course, I needed to have a thorough knowledge of the assigned textbook readings because we were tested on that material, not on what we covered in class. Question 3, did I do better after that? Yes, my scores on the second test and the final exam and the term paper I wrote for that course produced an excellent final grade. That lesson made me as much better student as my grades in subsequent college courses have shown. Today, I remember the better student that I became thanks to that mistake. This little story has been repeated many times in my life, as it probably has in yours. We will never be able to avoid mistakes in life. they will happen. They are part of life, and some will be so colossal that few people will ever forget them. But when life ends, we will not be judged by the mistakes we made. We will be judged by what we became, how we allowed the lessons learned from those mistakes to make us better people. We will also be judged by what we built, how we worked with others to help build a better world. More on that next week. And some additional info on the Silver Cross that was talked about in last week's paper. The World War I Silver Memorial Cross found by former Gladstone resident Mitch Cuthbert by Casper Warehan. The Neepawa Banner and Press has some information to share regarding the World War I Silver Memorial Cross featured in last week's edition. According to information and photo examples from Veteran Affairs Canada, the medal found by former Gladstone resident Mitch Cuthbert, is currently of Brandon, is specifically a Memorial Cross Georgius Rex Imperator. This is also known as a Memorial Cross GR1 and is an example of a Canadian Memorial Cross or Silver Cross. The Memorial Cross was first instituted via Order in Council 2374, which is dated to December 1st, 1919. And a thumbs up, thumbs down, and a big thumbs up. The residents of Elks Manor would like to thank everyone that donated fruit and veggies for our use. The fresh produce was greatly appreciated. From the Elks Manor of Neepawa, Manitoba. Now, another big subject in Neepawa right now is the museum. So first I'm going to read a letter to the editor, and then I will read the article. Pick up the torch. Just like many volunteer-led organizations in this community, the museum has been challenged in recruiting volunteers for the last few years. We cannot meet our own guidelines for the number of board members required to run the museum, and we are scarce on volunteers. I just attended the Westman Museum meeting in Brandon, where there were 60 museums represented, and they too are having the same issues with lack of board members and volunteers. First and foremost, volunteer power is absolutely critical to run the museum. Several of our older, enthusiastic volunteers have retired. Younger volunteers haven't shown an interest in this work. I am stepping down from my position as president at the end of October. I have often been volunteering countless hours over the summers. I have done this because I love the work and believe in the value of the museum offers to the community. I can't maintain this amount of work while also enjoying time with family and pursuing other hobbies. I have loved working with summer students and volunteers to create a vibrant learning environment at the museum. My hope is that people who love history, research, teaching, and community service will decide to pick up this torch and to continue to grow this amazing community asset. Volunteering at a small museum offers a unique opportunity to connect with history, gain new skills, and contribute meaningfully to your community. Beautiful Plains Museum has completed many goals and upgrades through the last several years to work on improving and maintaining the museum. 2014 saw a new roof, and the following year saw paintwork on the outside of the building. The majority of our lights are now changed, replacing the obsolete light fixtures that used to be bulbs and could no longer be purchased. We can see all the displays and pictures so much better now, as well as the dust better too. We removed an old addition and had professionals strip the paint off the bricks and staining the area to match what would have looked like when it was built. A fire truck garage was built to safely display the 2 fire trucks that the museum has. The museum building and artifacts are well cared for and in sound condition. The displays have been cleaned and updated and are looking great. We've expanded programming for children. We have successfully applied for provincial funding and grants every year and use those funds to both maintain the buildings and recruit amazing summer staff. The museum is currently in a very good space to move forward. However, saying that, we do need more volunteers as well as board members. We need retirees sharing their expertise, students earning service hours, history buffs indulging their passion, and plain, ordinary people. When I say volunteers, many of the jobs needed done may only be once a year. It's not just about dusting shelves, though sometimes it is. Sometimes we need painting done, or saddles cleaned, or oiled, or shelves put up, or help with a new display. Most of us love stories. Children love stories. Stories about people who lived in a different era. Stories about families who struggled through difficulties of coming to a new country with a cold climate and without the proper resources to help them get them started. Museums aren't just preserving objects. They're about the story of a community, the concept of life, 100 years plus ago becomes alive. The children coming through the museum are captivated by the stories of what it was like to be a child in their great-grandparents' or grandparents' age. The stories show them that history isn't just something that happened somewhere else, to someone else. It has happened right here, to people just like them, and their stories are worth remembering and celebrating. Don't underestimate museums' economic impact either. While our museum may not draw millions of visitors like a larger museum, the effect of our visitors can be significant. These visitors often spend money at local restaurants, shops, and hotels, contributing directly to the local economy. Moreover, the very existence of a vibrant small museum enhances a town's appeal, making it a more desirable place to visit. The comment I have heard many times in the past several years is, "Your museum is a hidden gem." Since 1980, we have been located in a heritage railway road station built by Canadian Northern Railway in 1902, and have continued to be a prominent fixture in our community. It houses a collection of artifacts on 3 levels that represent the living and working conditions of our immigrant ancestors as they made their homes here. The upstairs houses a wedding room, a military room, a children's school room, a church room, and a clothing room. On the main level, it has a jewelry room, a post office, a general store, hospital, drugstore, a Ukrainian room, log cabin, and main area with numerous local history books to do research with, as well as camera and photo display, a native artifact display, and a display that changes every year. The basement has a sports music room, Masons and other fraternal organization room, and a large area that contains agricultural displays, a barber shop, secretarial displays, agricultural fair displays, laundry, canning displays, carpenter displays, as well as nature displays. Our local heritage group have compiled a comprehensive history of the men and women from our area who served in both wars. These books contain pictures, letters home, information on where they have been buried, and any additional information that has been identified through the research. Our museum plays a large role in family research with our books, diaries, and photos, and the valuable knowledge of our board members. That was submitted by Helen Drysdale of Neepawa, Manitoba. So we'll move on to More on the Museum by Owen Devereux. Local history must be treasured, not forgotten. And pictured here, the beautiful Plains Museum has been home to the history of Neepawa and the surrounding rural municipalities for generations. But now it is in danger of closing forever due to a lack of new volunteers. Our region's storied history is in danger of disappearing forever. What are we going to do about it? There has been a call to action from the current board members for the beautiful Plains Museum for more people to get involved and help keep the volunteer-run operation open. As of the summer 2025, there were only 5 positions filled in the museum board, although the Constitution is structured for a maximum of 10 people. As well, those 5 have also been volunteering for quite some time, with some being active for between 15 and 20 years at this point. Helen Drysdale is one of those supporters, having been involved for just over a generation. She said volunteering has been an amazing experience, but that herself and the others are just starting to age out of the ability to support it on the way they used to. Our volunteer list has dwindled down, and it's only over the last 2 years that the lack of volunteers has really been noticed. And it's mostly because they are aging out and starting to have health issues, noted Drysdale. There's a need for fresh people with fresh ideas. Despite still having a passion for the museum, Drysdale has announced that she will be stepping down from her position as museum board president at the end of October. I have often been volunteering countless hours over the summers. I've done this because I love the work and I believe in the value of the museum offers the community. I can't maintain the amount of work while also enjoying time with family and pursuing other hobbies, said Drysdale. To go along with Drysdale's departure, the 4 other volunteers are also stepping away from the board. This mass exodus should not be viewed as a rejection of the museum, but rather a case of those involved having served their tenure and stepping aside for a well-earned rest. The decision, however, does create extremely urgent need for new individuals to step up and become part of the board. If no one is able or willing to do so, the beautiful Plains Museum will be forced to close permanently. In terms of the financial outlook of the beautiful Plains Museum, Drysdale noted that they are in good shape. We are okay financially. We've been able to maintain the building and displays and whatnot. There are 0 financial issues and no unhappiness amongst the volunteers. It's just a lack of new members to come in. A public meeting has been scheduled for Thursday, October 9th, to talk about the future of the Beautiful Plains Museum. Drysdale said the gathering will discuss a variety of topics related to what needs to be done to keep the doors open, and what happens if no one steps up to fill the volunteer void. If we don't have people getting involved, the keys get turned over to the town because the museum is on town property. That's all we really can do if no one is willing to step up, noted Drysdale. There have been quite a few museums across the prairies now that have actually closed. Sometimes the museum items go back to the families that donated them. Sometimes they go to other museums, and sometimes they just disappear, gone from public view to closets, attics, or basements. A community's history just gone and gathering dust. Drysdale concluded by saying the amount of time to volunteer is as much or as little as you are willing to offer. The community meeting will take place at the Beautiful Plains Museum building on Thursday, October 9th. The doors will open to the public at 6 p.m., with the meeting itself set to begin at 7. Everyone is invited to attend. And also there's some of the items pictured here that you would find in the museum. Okay, now back. Too many pages. On the other side of Helen's life, out of Helen's kitchens, fall veggies. I have just picked my butternut squash and onions and have zucchini waiting to be taken care of. Potatoes are picked and beets are ready to make pickles. There are so many different types of vegetables to enjoy throughout the fall season. So celebrate the delicious flavors of autumn and try the 2 recipes. Baked spaghetti squash casserole is an easy, low-carb, pasta-like dish that everyone will love. You can swap the chicken for cooked lean ground beef, diced ham, or a can of black beans. Your choice. All taste delicious with the cheese and pasta sauce. You can roast the spaghetti squash 1 or 2 days in advance. Just squeeze out excess moisture, and store in the fridge until ready to use. And she has a recipe here for spaghetti squash casserole and fall vegetable pasta, both of which look good. And Your Listening Ear by Delcy Martin. Reconciliation, a space for everyone. Reconciliation is often spoken about during this time of year, but its true meaning reaches far beyond having a day off work. At its heart, reconciliation is to repair relationships between Indigenous and non-Indigenous communities due to the harms perpetrated by the colonization. The legacy of colonization and systemic inequalities continues to affect our Indigenous families today. Reconciliation means to acknowledge that these harms took place and to openly acknowledge them rather than living in disbelief that these harms ever occurred. Reconciliation is not a one-and-done event. It is something that takes place over a long period of time through small actions that together create big meaning. Building and repairing relationships is an ongoing process that requires time, patience, and a willingness to work together. It requires truth-telling, a lot of listening, and humility before trust can grow. Reconciliation is not the responsibility of Indigenous people. It's the responsibility of everyone. Some say colonization is a thing of the past, and why don't people just get over it? The harsh reality is that the last residential school closed in 1996. 1996! That's not that long ago. The reality is that through the 60 Scoop, thousands of children were taken from their homes and placed into foster care. Today, those children are now grown, have little or no connection to their culture, their birth families, or their traditional territories. The reality is that thousands of children's bodies are being found at old residential school sites and are continuing to be found. These children have no names and have families out there who would like the world to know that these children were real and were loved. Indigenous communities across Canada continue to grapple with the interwoven challenges of persistent stereotypes. The ongoing crisis of missing and murdered loved ones, unsafe drinking water in many regions, and chronic underfunding of the very programs meant to support healing and opportunity. Why do we wear orange on TRC Day? Phyllis Webstad is a First Nations woman who was attending residential school. It was her first day and she was wearing an orange shirt gifted her by her grandmother. The shirt was taken from her. We wear orange to commemorate the harms caused by the colonization. We wear Every Child Matters to honor the lives of those deceased children found at residential schools and to say that the world that every child is beautiful and deserves life. So, how do we do reconciliation? The Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada put out its calls to action in 2015, and I want to encourage each and every one of you to read them. It is 94 suggestions for things that we can practically do as a society to further reconciliation? There are some suggestions that have already been implemented, but far too many that haven't been touched. Reconciliation can begin with simple, everyday choices, listening to Indigenous voices, learning the history, supporting Indigenous-led initiatives, and speaking up against stereotypes wherever they appear. Our Indigenous communities need allies, people who can walk alongside them in their journey, and people who will stand beside them to advocate for what is right with this world. And we move on to sports. Titans look to heat up in MJHL action. Neepawa Titans' Ty Kirk, number 24, tries to muscle his way through the Dauphin Kings during Friday night's game by Joshua Jackson. The Neepawa Titans aren't going to let a few losses at the beginning of the Manitoba Junior Hockey League season mire their confidence as they look to find their footing. The Titans find themselves with 1 win and 4 losses over 5 MJHL games since the regular season began in early September. The Titans would also test out all 3 of their goaltenders, Zach Burley, Alex Myers, and Matthew Maikta. To kick off the Titans' week, they hosted the Wewaysikapo Wolverines on Wednesday, September 24th. The Wolverines struck first blood in period number 1, but Neepawa Titans forward Ty Kirk registered his first point as a Titan 13 seconds after the Wolverines' first goal to make it a 1-1 game. Titans defenseman Owen Durgan added another goal in the first, assisted by Jack Clark, while the Wolverines put up an equalizer to make it a 2-2 game after period 1. The Titans faltered in the second period, allowing 3 unanswered goals that would be outshot 36-29 as they fell 5-2. The Titans hosted another home game with the Dauphin Kings on September 26. Goaltender Matthew Maikta started between the pipes and made his debut as a Neepawa Titan. Nerves would get to him as the Kings would take 3-goal lead in the first period. Neepawa Titans captain Connor Kasprick got his first goal of the season in the second period, assisted by Talon Wallace and Kyle Weisgarber, but the Kings ran away with a 4-1 victory over the Titans. For the Titans' final game of the weekend, they took on the Kings in Dauphin on September 27th. This game proved to be a closer game as Zach Burley took the pipes. Addison McIntosh, assisted by Keenan Skrupa and Kyle Weisgarber, put the Titans on board. The Kings scored 2 goals to complete the comeback and downed the Titans 2-1. Burley would stop 22 out of 24 shots. The Neepawa Titans looked to regroup for their home game on Wednesday against the visiting Winnipeg Blues, which took place on Wednesday, October 1st, just after the publication deadline, before heading to Winnipeg for a rematch on October 5th. The Titans will then host the Niverville Nighthawks at the Yellowhead Centre on Friday, October 10th. And the Neepawa Tigers continue to win. And pictured, the Neepawa Tigers soccer teams are in the middle of their season. The varsity girls, pictured here, won their game against Minnedosa Chancellors. Neepawa won 2-0 and faced the Chancellors on the 29th and then defeated them in playoff action. They take on McGregor, William Morton Mustangs, in the Zone 7 MHSAA finals on October 2nd. The varsity boys have also made their way to the finals after defeating the McGregor Mustangs 3-1 and will take on the Minnedosa Chancellors the same day. The Tigers football team also defeated the Neon Spartans 33-22 last week to remain undefeated. And having a blast at the Neepawa Legion. There was plenty of fun at the Neepawa Legion branch number 23 on the September 26th and September 27th. On September 26th, there was an Oktoberfest-themed event, and September 27th featured a cornhole tournament. Pictured on the left, seen here starting at the back, are Charla Magwood, Carrie Kilbacki, and Babe Kilbacki. At the front is Isaac Kilbacki. These 4s were dressed up to exhibiting their Oktoberfest spirit. And it's in black and white, but those dresses were very colorful, and Babe had on lederhosen. And then pictured on the right, the first, second, and third place winners of the cornhole tournament. Pictured from left to right are third place winners, Sandra Turner and Lisa Pottinger. First place winners, Dean Pottinger and Tyrone Gulick, and second place winners, Keith Orr and Warren McLeod. And on a personal note, I played in that tournament and was the proud holder of a 0 wins, 7 losses total, and I had a wonderful, wonderful time. It was worth it. Moving on, Gladstone Market Report by Blaine Houston. The weather outside was hot, and so was our market. We sold 1,307 head of cattle through the ring in Gladstone on Tuesday, September 30th. Cows and bulls sold 3 to 8 cents higher than last week. Feeding type cows and heiferettes are still selling strong. High yielding cows traded from 205 to 2.3. D3 older type cows, 150 to 200. Feeding type cows are ranging between 220 to 248. Bulls traded strong, 225 to 248. And here are some market highlights from yesterday's sale. 18 751-pound red and black steer calves bring $5.85 a pound, or $4,363 a head. 10 Charolais steer calves came in the ring weighing 647 pounds and cash in at $6.22 a pound, or $4,025 per head. 6 black exotic steer calves weighing 541 pounds stamped their ticket at $7.22 a pound, or $3,906 a head. On the heifer side of things, 14 red and black heifer calves weighing 605 pounds bring $5.85 per pound, or $3,539 per head. 18 lighter sisters weighing 537 pounds and fetch $6.28 per pound, or $3,372 per head. 8 red and black heifer calves weighing 398 pounds bring $8.05 per pound, or $3,204 a head. Plainer type cattle are still seeing some discounts. And as you can see, the market was powerful in Gladstone this past Tuesday. And celebrating a decade of entrepreneurship, Neepawa Economic Development to host 10th annual What's the Big Idea by Casper Warehan. Neepawa is once again preparing to feature up-and-coming business ideas. On October 16th, Neepawa Economic Development will be hosting the 10th annual edition of What's the Big Idea. It will be held at the Neepawa Legion from 9 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. with all members of the public welcome to attend. What's the Big Idea showcases the next businesses operating in our communities, says Marilyn Crew, Economic Development Officer for Neepawa. Attending the event is a great way to support entrepreneurship. If you can't come for the whole day, the pitch parlor starts at 1 p.m. Inspired by the Canadian television program Dragon's Den, this event invites entrepreneurs to pitch their ideas for new or expanding businesses. It also provides monetary support to the entrepreneurs as they have the chance to receive grants for their propositions. Plans are coming together, and there will be over $60,000 in cash prizes available to be won, said Crew. I am working with 6 startup businesses to pitch at this year's Big Idea. Crew also noted that as this is a landmark year for What's the Big Idea, Economic Development is also planning to host a special celebrations with the entrepreneurs. This year is our special 10th anniversary, so there will be an evening dinner with all our past participants who are still in business invited to come and celebrate, Crew explained. Crew added, in contacting all the businesses since our first event in 2015, I have found that 36 of the 57 businesses are still in operation in some way. This is a 63% success rate compared to the national average of 50% after 5 years and 33% after 10 years. As the community and surrounding area waits to see what this year's feature ideas are, entrepreneurs still have a chance to register and participate. Any entrepreneurs attending to register are asked to contact Marilyn Crew at the Economic Development Office either via phone 204-476-7607 or mail to edo@neepawa.ca. The deadline to apply is Thursday, October 9th. And pictured is from last year's 2024. Pictured here are those who participated in 2024 What's the Big Idea? From left to right stand Elisa McLean, Alt Home Decor, Melissa Rossnagel, the Mrs. Interior Detailing, Tricia Braun, Flowers on 16, Nicole Cooper, Bold Stitch Designs, Scott Dyke and Shirley Windrus, SS Ventures, and Diane Marie Miranda and Develyn Salta, Gentle Bucket. Doing splits in front, JJ Scheer, Poetry in Motion. And quilts on display in Neepawa. Neepawa's Tangled Threads Quilt Guild had a quilt show at Neepawa Legion last week, showcasing a plethora of colorful quilting projects its members have made. The show was held on September 26th and 27th. Above, quilted works of many different sizes were displayed on tables and on wall-to-wall exhibits. Pictured left, the quilted wall art Memories of the Lake was created from a photo by Shirley Domansky. The quilt depicts a scene from Wasagaming, also known as Clear Lake. And I also attended that, and I was absolutely overwhelmed by the quilts that were there, the ideas that go into creating them, the work that goes into creating them. It was well worth attending. Go next year. And Neepawa's first pickleball tournament, a smashing success. Nearly 50 athletes and volunteers descended on Neepawa's Hillcrest pickleball courts for the first Kiwanis in Your Kitchen pickleball tournament. There were 20 teams from Brandon, Birtle, Gladstone, Minnedosa, and Neepawa battling out for a good cause. Over 90 abbreviated round-robin games were played in the morning to create rankings for the afternoon's double elimination play. In the afternoon, the intermediate bracket played 25 full-length games, with Brandon's Neil Graham and Greg Little taking top honors. The beginners bracket played 14 full-length games, with Zaldi Paguidopan and Joshua Gubaya taking home the top prize. Not all awards were skills-based, though. There were pickle-themed prizes for the best team name, the team that got pickled the most getting 0 points in a game, and the player with the most stylish shots, just to mention a few. We were excited to partner with the Neepawa Pickleball Association to make this day happen, said organizer Marcia Forgue. Everybody had a lot of fun, and the cloudy, calm day made for good playing conditions. We can't wait for next year. And let's see what I've missed reading in our paper this week. Hopping back and forth with continued stories. We covered our sports, and we covered the museum, and we covered reconciliation, and we covered this. So I guess we're on to Looking Back by Casper Wareham. 125 years ago, October 3rd, 1900. Franklin, Miss Sproul, teacher of Coldstream School, is also under the doctor's care. Mr. J.R. Furlong, harness maker of Elmville, Ontario, after visiting old Ontario friends here, went to Dauphin last week to visit his sister. From there, he returns to his home after quite an extended trip into the territories. Franklin, Mr. William Rath, has brought out the interest of his partner, James Rollins, and will now run the blacksmith business single-handed. Mr. Rath, since coming here, has worked up quite a nice trade and is doing well, this being a very favorable district for that line of business. Glenholm, Mr. and Mrs. Samuel Muir of Prince Edward County, Ontario, arrived here last week to reside with Mrs. Moore's son, Mr. M.N. Scott. One of the best crops in the Boulder district, says the Gazette, has just been threshed out on the farm of Mr. Charles Hamilton. The output of wheat was 2,500 bushels, the average being 19 bushels per acre off the summer fallow and 18 on the other land. The wheat is a good sample and will go number one hard. Oats went 25 and barley 94 bushels to the acre. 100 years ago, October 2nd, 2025, Seaborn and Ferris have dissolved partnership. Mr. Ferris goes to Winnipeg for a few days to visit his mother prior to going back to California. 75 years ago, Thursday, October 5th, 1950. Last week, the press reported that AAS William Argyle Patterson Neepawa has represented the RCN in the Guard of Honor at the funeral bier of retired Honorable William Lyon Mackenzie King. Right Honorable William Lyon Mackenzie King. This was an inadvertent error and should have read Gerald Patterson, Argyle's brother, who is with the RCN in Ottawa. Argyle is in the battle area of Korea on the cruiser HMCS Athabaskan. Both young men are the sons of Mr. and Mrs. W.J. Patterson of our Royal Route 2, Neepawa. Mr. and Mrs. R.W. Hadley left on Monday for Carberry, where they will take up residence on their farm adjacent to the town. For the past 8 years, Mr. Hadley has conducted a painting and decorating business here. Their son Bill has completed school and will assist in the operation of the farm. 50 years ago, Thursday, October 2nd, 1975. And pictured here, 1975, wagons full of freshies at NACI Freshie Parade. Freshie Parades were once an annual occurrence here. Featured among the many sights at the 1975 edition of the Freshie Parade for Neepawa Collegiate Institute was this train of wagons in which a number of freshies rode on their way down the streets. McCreary, Extensive concerns were expressed at a special Tuesday, September 23rd meeting of the Council of the Village of McCreary Hospital and the East Lift Station when floodwaters swept through the town recently. The council recommended that a letter be forwarded to the Canadian National Railway expressing the council's concern that collection of debris at a bridge owned by the CNR, which spans Wilson Creek, blocked the normal flow of water and diverted it into the town itself. This flow diversion was a major cause of the near flooding of the hospital and lift station. A special meeting was held Thursday, September 25th, between representatives of the Beautiful Plains School Division Board and interested groups and individuals in an effort to determine the future use of the facilities at the Viscount School in Neepawa. Dan Levenik of Neepawa was recently elected president of the Manitoba and Northwestern Ontario Command Royal Canadian Legion. During the Second World War, he served as military staff clerk in Canada and Europe. He joined the Legion in Hamiota in 1946 and has been active in Legion affairs ever since. Mr. Levenik was born in Minnedosa and received his education in Saskatoon, Winnipeg, and Brandon. 20 years ago, Monday, October 3rd, 2005, Rosedale Reeve, Ed Lewandowski, says he's cautiously optimistic the former Kelwood School will be used to house a fish farm. Robert Freeman of Central Aquaculture Inc. in Selkirk said if all goes according to plan, the fish farm could be up and running early in the new year. Kelwood, Hurricane Rita hit pretty close to home as Ethel Tockerett's granddaughter, Andrea's family and pets were evacuated. Thankfully, all are back home safe and sound. And moving on, as usual, this is NACTV, so I've got to tell you about some of the things that are coming up. Highlights of the week. Coffee Chat, Volunteer Crisis, October 7th at 10:30, October 8th at 8:10, and October 12th at 2 p.m. Neepawa Titans Hockey, October 7th at 3 p.m., October 9th at 10:30 a.m., and October 10th at 7:30 p.m. And the Pickleball Tournament, October 6th at 12:15, October 9th at 8, and October 11th at 10:30 a.m. And don't forget about bingo. We're still looking for volunteers, and we need a good bingo caller. If you're interested, it pays $20. And the Bonanza's over $22,000, Blackout over $12,000, Toonie Pod over $200. And like every other organization, as the museum has pointed out, we need volunteers. We could sure use some more help around here. Are people willing to sit on the board? Or like every other organization in town, we're looking for help. So keep us in mind. And that concludes the reading of the banner and press for Friday, October 3rd, 2025. Thanks for watching.